Welcome once again to Indieventure, where today we're going to do something that's both quite familiar and a little bit different. But before I get into that, this time I promise I have remembered to introduce myself, Rebecca Jones, along with my two friends and co-hosts Rachel Watts and Liam Richardson.
Hello!
Hi!
Little callback.
Yes.
We'll call back to my last hosting outing. Just thought I'd own it. Anyway, today's episode is something I've been cooking up for a while because I've been both fascinated and horrified recently by the realisation that the start of 2025 marks the midway point of our current decade, the 2020s. They've certainly been an odd one, even by humanity's standards, since the most memorable historical event so far happened to pretty much everyone, pretty much everywhere, and was pretty hard to miss. Maybe that generation-defining weirdness is part of the reason why the past 5 years seem to have flown by so very distressingly fast, or maybe it's just that your intrepid co-hosts all entered our 30s during that time period, so things are speeding up generally from our point of view. I'm sorry, this is so existential, it goes on for another couple of paragraphs, guys. I hate to break this to you, it gets darker still.
Add a new tag. Rebecca gives the others an existential crisis.
A reality check.
Get your hip flask out. It's still going. But in all the mess of the past 5 years and 3 months, it took a while to get this one into the schedule, the one thing that's brought us all together is video games. They're how the three of us met, and they're presumably why you're listening to us right now. All the at-home entertainment industries experienced a big boost in engagement and profits during the pandemic lockdowns, but video games really emerged victorious, although unfortunately we're now experiencing the fallout of that particular bubble bursting, now that we've all more or less adjusted to the new normal, whatever that is. But whether you spent the last 5 years playing games, making them, talking about them, or a combination of all three, you'd be hard-pressed to argue that there haven't been some amazing titles and trends throughout the first half of the 2020s. And I don't think it's too big of an assumption to say that the three of us feel strongly that indies are leading that charge. So that's what we're talking about today. Our favourite indie games of the first half of the decade. It's a bit like a Game of the Year episode, but with the benefit of a lot more hindsight, so we can be more reflective about what's really stuck with us over the long term, which is why we're also feeling pretty confident about opening up the prestigious Indieventure Vault and inducting each of our top picks at the end of the episode. So, I can stop talking in a minute. To get us started, I wanted to throw out a pretty open-ended but potentially quite loaded question. How do we all think the 2020s will be remembered as a decade in gaming?
Sorry, to derail us immediately, listening to you read that script out like that, you've got such a really good voice for like VO. Has anyone ever told you that before?
I would actually love to do VO. Actually, yeah, hang on. If anyone listening, because I know that we have industry people who listen.
There's your audition reel right there.
Yes.
Consider me available for VO. Like
the whole time I was like, I worked with you for so long and I never got you to voice over any videos on the channel. Like that was really cool.
Thank you.
Very clear and crisp.
Yeah, very well enunciated.
I genuinely would love to do VO. Hit me up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Contact at indieventurepodcast.co.uk. Anyway, sorry,
please.
Your question.
But yeah, genuinely, I really did want to start with this question because I'm like, I feel like, we have a sort of measure of the vibes of decades past. I think that's a thing that does happen. When we look back on there's like, when I think of a 2010s game, a few things immediately ping in my brain. And I feel like we're maybe getting a sense of the vibe of the 2020s by now. I wonder what you guys, I have a certain very skewed opinion, but I wonder what you guys think that is.
I think there's been like two things that have defined it. If you're happy for me to go first.
Of course, please
see if
go
you
for
both
it.
agree. First of all, indies have had loads more room to breathe the first 5 years of this decade because, we had the pandemic, so more of us were playing games. And it didn't really matter that like 2020 was stacked because there was just more people playing games during that time and there was more of a demand for stuff during that particular period of time. But also the years after that, 21, 22 specifically, AAA games became a scarcity. So you had like entire years where indies basically could shine because there was just less out there to play. Also, indies themselves are changing. Something that we spoke about last year triggered this thought in me that indies themselves are no longer a novelty. Like this idea of games being made by smaller teams but released alongside big budget things isn't really like a thing that people will buy them for. Like there's not a reason enough for people to buy them. They're not like unique for that reason alone. And like the saturation of them is so much bigger that I sort of feel like indies themselves are becoming almost more niche and we're starting to see like really niche concerns for like, this is a game for this specific type of person because they're just aiming for like very specific people. But also as AAA games get bigger and bigger, and like the average development time is like encroaching 7-8 years.
Yeah.
I just feel like indie games now they've sort of like filled the gap that like AA has left, and I just feel like they take up more space and more room over the first 5 years. It's sort of my take on where we're at the moment anyway.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're being taken more seriously. They're getting bigger. They're being more experimental. And that's just because, like you said, the audience has gotten bigger and people are actually starting to see the indie space as like a space now, instead of it being like a trickle, like a couple of indies would like trickle in, or it'd be like super niche. So that's really great. Studios that we've loved have gotten bigger. They've released more games that people who aren't in the indie space have been into. Like, yeah, I just think it's great, even though obviously pandemic happened. But in terms of like what we're seeing in the space, it's so much more like eclectic and interesting and like creative.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes, I think that's kind of what I was circling as well. Is I know that as a trio we're probably quite biased here, but I do think that this decade will belong to the indies. I don't think that that's I don't think it's a blip. I think that is going to be the tone of the decade, and I think that you're right. In the years when AAAs have struggled, indies have absolutely been able to rise to more prominence, and that's been fantastic, and like have really boosted and supported the industry as well, in how much they were able to do. I also oddly think there's like a weird contradiction for me, in that I do think that the boundaries are breaking down of indie AA, AAA, but I also feel like in a very strange way there's like, it's like they're pulling apart. It's like two extremes are pulling apart, and a lot of things are rushing in to meet in the middle, if that makes sense, because I feel like you're seeing a lot of big games companies like Capcom and Square Enix, a couple of I don't think off the top of my head, which are putting out what would be like AAs, but they still have this like weird AAA veneer. But then you've got a lot of indie companies that are, rising to kind of fill the AA what was the AA space. But then also like indie itself can mean anything now, from one person in their spare room in their spare time to, a team of 25 in an actual studio somewhere. And that just feels like it's just this long continuum that seems to have all these weird loops and whirls and all sorts of weird things going on in it. And yet still somehow I know that indie is where it's at. Just, I mean, I think I spoke maybe in the last episode, or was it the one before, about AAA just feeling really risk averse. And so to me, probably just because of where my interests lie, but AAA feels like it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And then you got people talking about quadruple A, and it almost feels like everything is going to like try and get into that.
Yeah.
And then indies are just going to be everything. Like what you would have called an indie, in my prediction for the second half of the decade, shall we say, is that pretty soon what you would have called an indie 10 years ago will be kind of occupying every space below your GTAs and your really big hitters, basically. Especially because like the bubble's bursting, right, on huge games.
Yeah, I mean, it has to, right? That's an interesting point, because I think one opinion I've been chewing on recently is I kind of want games to just stop where they're at. In fact, if anything, I kind of want us to roll back a little bit to like the PS4 generation is the peak.
I know exactly what you mean, though.
Yeah, like let's just stop making new consoles.
Yeah,
like, we're okay. We don't need more power. I think it's okay.
I know exactly what you mean. I saw, I recently bought Assassin's Creed Shadows. Haven't started it yet because I have too many games. But I saw a side-by-side comparison because I got it for PS5. And I saw a side-by-side comparison with the PS5 Pro. And I was like, yes, I can see it looks a tiny bit better on the PS5 Pro. But at the same time, not so much that I'm like, I got to get rid of my PS5. I'm like, no, this is fine. This looks perfectly wonderful already. It's all great.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fine. Like, I don't need to keep paying £500 for the latest graphical improvement every 6-7 years.
Yeah, I do feel though, in terms of making games and marketing your games and earning money off games, it's getting more difficult. Like, I think,
100%.
I mean, yeah, it is.
Even though we're looking at like indies being the most creative they've ever been, and we're seeing a lot of them, because there are a lot of them, funding is almost becoming near to impossible unless you go through like my country has an art program in which I'm getting funding from that, or like a charity incentive thing. It's definitely like going to a publisher and securing funds to make your weird little game is so much harder. And even just like being on the front page of Steam now is just like almost virtually impossible unless you're a sex game at this point. So it's very as much as I appreciate the diversity and what's happening, I just also am very worried that so many games are just like going under the radar or aren't getting the proper backing. Like, I just think of Arco last year as a really good example of that. And I just, it just breaks my heart. So there's also that. So it's a double-edged sword.
It does all feel like it's, again, part of a huge kind of reduction in the games industry that just ballooned during COVID, and then it's like really reducing again, to the point where I honestly can almost foresee a situation where like so many releases become, once again, as I say, someone just doing it for the love of it in their spare time, and like, you know, putting out this perfect like one person indie that took 8 years to make in evenings and weekends or whatever. And you know, it would be a shame. It's a frustration for me at the moment, because this is like, you know, it's a frustration for indie devs. It's a frustration for everyone who works in the games industry at the moment, that money just seems to be disappearing despite being the most lucrative entertainment industry on the planet right now. And like, well, I will not get into the incendiary matter of where that money might be going, but yeah, I share that concern as a general worry for indie devs everywhere, really. Just people working across the industry. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be alive, as the old curse has it, I think, in the games industry. I kind of knew this was going to be a bit of a bummer, but I thought it was important to kind of try and contextualize.
It's two things. It's two things at the same time. There's the artistic and creative side, and there's the economic side. And unfortunately, indies 100%. Sit right in the middle of that, and like AAA, which may skew one side to the other. And that is what we love about the indie space, but that's what makes it so volatile. In that it's just always changing. Like from year to year, we're seeing different trends, different movements, and a lot of the time that is through like what's happening in terms of the economy and like just the ecology of the gaming space in general. So yeah, I mean, love them, awesome, but there's always going to be like, that's always the story with indies. I feel like it's always going to be these two different aspects of like creating those games. So love it, but oh god.
But hopefully, you know, I mean, we can do our part to celebrate some indies today that'll
absolutely,
you know, maybe turn some people onto some games that, you know, support those devs. So yeah, I have hit my microphone stand with my penguin. That is what a sentence.
I'm always saying that.
Just in case that makes it into the edit, I have from an old job a stress toy penguin that I like to squeeze while we record because it doesn't make a noise.
It's like what Rachel wants to do to Stuart Little is what Rebecca does to that penguin every time we record.
It knows it's loved. It knows it's loved. It's
yes, but with me, I have malice and anger in my heart, and Rebecca only has love.
Yeah, you know, I'm just like, you know, when a kid goes up to a cat and is just way too enthusiastic. Squeezes. As I was saying at top, this is going to be kind of like a Game of the Year episode, but we're going to discuss some honourable mentions before all kind of nominating our favourite indie of the first half of the decade to put in the vault. So if there's any overlap with what's already in the vault, people kind of get a second pick, which is nice. Yeah, I mean, we could just start, kind of do a bit of a round robin on some honourable mentions to kick us off.
So what years are we covering? We're covering
2020 to 2024. So I'm trying to
2024.
I thought about like the first 3 months of this year and I was like, too much recency bias.
Absolutely.
100%.
We need a bit of distance. 2020, because otherwise it'll kind of get lost in the shuffle. Yeah, it's interesting as well, because like I think of 2023 as like the year of this decade, right? That was just the one that everyone agrees, and I do agree that it was probably the best year for games. But actually 2021 has such a huge place on the long list that I came up with earlier.
Interesting, because mine are 2024 and 2022.
Ooh, see, 2022 and 2024 were both quite empty for me. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, look,
2022 was like
three of us.
My year. I was like, oh, yeah, they banger after banger. And then we had May in 2024. Oh, my God. May alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
May madness. It was great. So, mine were, although the games I've chosen, I've kind of chosen one, not one from each year, but I don't have one that overlaps. Because I'm also trying to be like, for me, what did this pick? Why do I like it? And kind of what was it saying about indie games at the time, loosely? Not like, this is what the year represented, but like, was this a talking point in that year, and what was that talking point? So that's
Yeah.
how and then my vault pick is just because it's a fucking good game.
I love this because I have been really dying to do this episode for a couple of months now.
You have.
And I set the task, and then you guys took it so much more diligently than I did, because I've just been like, what's cool that I haven't talked about enough yet?
But that's legit. That is legit.
I was like, we all approach
it
the
is.
tasks in our own way. Everyone is free to answer the question in the way that seems most appropriate to them. So who wants to go first? Who wants to kick us off?
Who has the oldest game? Who has the oldest game? Just to kick us off. I have one from 2020.
I can do a February 2020.
Oh, mine's May 2020. So
Just to go against the rules that Rebecca set for us, I do have a game that's from 2018.
Illegal.
Oh, I see.
Illegal.
I know what's going to happen here. Yeah.
Sound the alarm. What is it? You go first, Ben.
Yes, go on.
And then we'll boot you off the episode because that is illegal.
No, Rachel, he's right, though. He's right. I know what he's
What
saying.
is it?
As I put my coat slowly on, I turn bashfully and I say, "But it's Among Us."
Oh, yeah. Out you go.
I'll be
All right,
out.
nice to see you. Bye.
Imposter.
Imposter, you're out the space shuttle chute.
Liam was the imposter. He works for Greg's. I just feel like we can't talk about the first half of this decade without mentioning Among Us, which became a cultural moment that far stretched beyond the usual people who play video games. And yes, this game came out originally in 2018, but it did not have its moment until 2020. And I think really, it was a game that the developers had abandoned. They were working on a sequel, and then it became so big through streaming that they cancelled the sequel to basically keep working on the original game, which is wild. So this is by Inner Sloth, and at its peak in 2020, it had close to 500,000 people playing over the course of, I think, a single day. This is a game where you play as a little space person, a little spacesuit running around a 2D top-down environment in space. And it's a social deduction game, a bit like something like Werewolf, where the majority of players are simple crew members and they're trying to complete little tasks, but one or two of them are imposters, and it's the imposter's job to kill the others. And you've got to try and evict the imposters from your party by calling an emergency meeting and then shouting at each other over voice comms until you all vote for someone to leave. And I do think that we've seen social deduction, like the ramifications of this becoming popular are huge. Like we've seen social deduction games everywhere now. Social deduction is kind of the in thing in society now. People love The Traitors. There's loads of stuff on Netflix and
Blood on the Clock Tower.
Blood on the Clock Towers,
I'm obsessed.
Is becoming a huge thing as well. And Among Us was the first, not the first one to do it, but it popularized the idea in a time where people were desperate for interesting and engaging ways of connecting with each other during the pandemic lockdowns. So I like Among Us. I've played about 15 hours of it. I played it during the pandemic, and it's an important part of my pandemic in the same way that Animal Crossing New Horizons is. It might not be a game from this decade, but it was absolutely gilded within this decade. So that is my first honorable mention.
You can
Absolutely
stay.
Powerful argument. I think it definitely deserves the kind of like evolving game. It deserves to be recognized the same way a game that got a big DLC in 2020 would deserve to be recognized, I think, in that it was, still in active development, receiving substantial content updates, as well as obviously the surge of interest. I as the taskmaster here, I shall allow it.
Thank you.
So such a power rush. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah,
I like the wrinkle that you're going to judge us on each of the
No,
picks
that's
that
it.
we
That's
bring.
it. As long as the rest are within the rules as stated, it's fine.
Yeah, Among Us is a really good pick. I agree with you about
100%.
it being a game of 2020 for sure.
Yes.
And I did not know they were. I knew that they had kind of not abandoned it, but they were moving away from it. But I didn't know that they were making a sequel. So that in and of itself is interesting. And it became a phenomenon. Everyone was fucking playing Among Us.
Yeah.
It was just massive, and it's fun. Werewolf has been around for ages, but this is just one of the first popularized ways of playing it online with people, where you couldn't see them in person. And it was just, Among Us is really fucking fun. It's such a good game.
Oh,
it's very accessible to play. Like you can play it on phone as well, right? It was so easy to play it. And when I think it was the last season of The Traitors, someone was describing someone else as sus and sussy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, that is, meme parlance, that Among Us.
Entered the lexicon, yeah.
Yeah.
I say sus all the time now, and it definitely is at least partly because of Among Us. And
yeah, me too.
Yeah. That's a great pick for sure.
It's a really good pick. I think I was briefly tempted for the same reason to mention Fall Guys, which is a game that like was just, it happened to be having its moment when I was doing news for PC Gamer, so I feel like I like interacted with the Mediatonic comms people a lot, and those sort of like, they exist in the very opposite sides of the spectrum, right? But the idea that we were all just dying for this sort of very involved multiplayer experience at that time is pretty straightforward, and like,
and I watched so many YouTubers play it. I watched anyone play it. I'd be like, I want to see. It was just became like, I'd play it, but then also I'd enjoy watching people play it.
Some of the wildest YouTube moments of the last 5 years have come out of like just really weirdly modded Among Us as well. Like, just so good. Oh man, Call Me Kevin doing songs about it. It was so good.
Oh, we lived through a wild time in many different ways, didn't we?
What a moment.
A Wild West. So that was 2018. So who was next? Should we do these in chronological? It feels like a good way of doing it.
Yeah, then we should.
In which case, I've got February 2020. So mine is, and I know I've mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast before, but I feel like a lot of my choices have skewed to like 2020 and 2021. And I think that's partly because like, we haven't had much chance to discuss it. We started this podcast in late 2022. So I feel like there's more to talk about, but also I feel like anything that's stuck with me since, a couple of years hindsight feels more significant, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of stood the test of time. And I'm also going to entirely break this rule by talking about a very recent game near the end. But so a game I wanted to talk about, and this is like really going to bring the tone down, guys, is...
You wait till my pick.
Oh, no. Okay, like, let's... Race to the bottom here. No, I stand by this game. I want to talk about my most played game on Steam because it was such a huge... Again, it released, I think, about the 20th of February 2020. So, like, Liam is looking at my Steam profile right now. I'm sure that he's trying to read it. He's
locked in.
No.
Scrolling.
So, yeah, I've brought this up a couple of times, but the game Max Gentleman Sexy Business, yes, it is exactly... what it sounds like.
Hell yeah.
Is a game that I played for, I think it's about 78 hours. I've gotten it on Steam at the moment. I'm still not quite done. But the significance of this game to me was that it came out at the end of 2020. The UK went into lockdowns like 2-3 weeks later. And there was like definitely a point in that time where there was this game and there was Animal Crossing New Horizons, and they could not be more like the yin and yang of like the experience of early lockdown for me, because you got Animal Crossing, it's like very wholesome and very family friendly, and then you've got this game which is like a just weird throw everything at the wall like management dating sim. It's so weird and so wild, but I love it. It's got, the characters are so varied and easy to get attached to, but to be honest, the reason I bring up Animal Crossing as well is the core thing that made them both stand out at this period in time was very involved gameplay loops. And like at a point in time where suddenly everything that defined the structure of your day was kind of gone. Having these games that like ran you through these loops of so many different gameplay aspects to juggle just like kind of fixed your brain. And I say that, but also I definitely remember sometimes just sitting down at like 9 a.m. in my pajamas and then looking up and it's 1 p.m. and I'm still playing this game because like early lockdown was feral as a time.
It was.
So yeah, even though this game has not necessarily stayed on my mind as much as some of the others I'm going to bring up later in this episode, I do think like it's the most amount of time I think I've ever put into an indie game across all platforms. Obviously, Steam allows me to keep track of that. But I think it's just like the fact that it had this, it's very lighthearted and very comedic as well. It's like, it's quite a dark comedy at times, but it does stay almost, with the exception of like one thing that happens in it that I thought went a bit too far to dark, it almost always like plays off ludicrous things in a very cartoonish way. it was a really good moment for a game like this to release. I don't think it ever sold a huge amount, but it did kind of get, it got its audience at a really powerful moment, if that's not too big of a thing to say. And yeah, I love it. Again, it's the kind of thing that I love because I love management sims, I love dating sims, and I love things that combine genres. So this has definitely got to be an honorable mention for me, just because it was like, even though I've not played it in a couple of years, looking back on it, it's just like that was so big a part of my life. At the start of this decade. And yeah, and I still love the, people that I took on the final dungeon crawl date, weird visual novel section. It's such a weird game. It's so hard to describe all of the disparate elements, because it's like, okay, so you're going on dates, but you're doing mini games on the dates, but you're also running a business together. But it's like you're not like running a tea shop. It's like you're making high level financial decisions together about the distribution of resources across the city. But you're also equipping them with weapons to make sure that they can go and it's just,
oh my god,
it's such a weird game.
Liam, you should play this game. It sounds exactly like your cup of tea.
It's
so much stuff to do.
It's nonsense, and I love it. I love it so much.
And you're telling me I can also kiss boys in it?
Oh, you can kiss boys and girls, and you can't kiss NBs, but you can be an NB. So take that as you will.
I want to smooch an NB person. I want to smooch everyone.
I mean, smooching everyone. And another thing that it does was it was an early example of games doing a thing I do appreciate, which is obviously on Steam, if you've got a game with quite explicit content, the way that it will be run is by having a free add-on that you can download if you want to see explicit content. But this also has 3 levels of sort of very chaste or kind of risque, or you can download the NSFW patch. And I appreciate it was one of the first games I saw to actually do that level of modify it to your degree of comfort, and
really
make
good.
sure there's always a platonic option if you wanted to just I mean, I was ridiculous. I smooched nearly everybody. There were only a couple of people I was like, let's be friends. But most of the time I was like, let's smooch everybody. We're here to play this game. We're going to play this game. But yeah, I appreciated how much you could, and a lot more. I don't really think this game popularized it, but it was definitely at the start of this movement towards more adaptability and customizability in terms of that in romance games. So I thought that was pretty neat as well.
That is cool.
You've broken me, because now all I've got in my head is, do you want to kiss an NB? Come on and play my game.
Yes, I'd like to kiss an NB. Okay, hi.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we can't do it yet, but Mick and I have got a little song about blueprints that we've been singing.
Oh my god.
That's a nice little tease for next episode.
Hello.
It's all embargoed. Well, actually, to be fair.
The song is embargoed.
Yeah, the song, my debut single is embargoed. You are so lucky, I'm not going to say.
Well, I want to hear it. I'll have to wait till next episode. I'll remember.
I will just send you the lyrics in a DM because you don't want to hear me sing.
I want to hear you sing. I need to hear you sing it.
We don't have a tag yet for Rebecca is overcome by the power of song. There's one for Rachel and me. So, hey, if I can sing the Santa song, you can sing your blueprints.
Liam, you don't understand how often I that just pops into my head and I just sing it.
Mick was around the house singing it for weeks afterwards, to be honest.
Santa Claus has made you a quiz.
No, please. It's March, guys. It's March.
Quiz. I have a Santa mug all year round with my Santa mug.
Yeah, Rebecca's saying that it's so Christmassy that it's up there with wow.
It is. No, it is. We should bring it back next Christmas. Don't get me wrong.
So fucking funny.
It is too near to Easter.
The 2 solid minutes.
It's
you singing that?
God, it was just the realization dawning on both of us, wasn't it?
Just okay, that was nice. Santa Claus has made you a quiz.
Oh, we're really doing this.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
That's a
great
pick.
Very good pick.
So, my pick is from May 2020. And yeah, just kind of looking at the releases in 2020, a lot of the time we weren't going to pick games that were already in the vault. So Hades, Paradise Killer, they were all already locked in and secured. So I was again looking at 2020 because that was a pretty banging year for indies. And so for me, Umurangi Generation as a game of the moment, I was like,
Cook.
that game could be. Here we go. That game, honestly, it is every year, it just gets more and more relevant. This is a photography sim where you play as someone with a camera who's going around these like urban environments, like cities and skate parks and sewers, and you're taking photos essentially. But kind of the way that it's structured is these areas, there's a story unfolding, and these stories are very inherently like political. Essentially, it's just like a city dealing with a massive fuck off monster like kaiju style. But it's kind of, there's a lot more conversations happening here. And with the release of its DLC, we're seeing themes such as like police brutality and climate crisis and like colonization, war, diaspora, like young people dealing with all this shit. COVID. This game was in development before COVID hit. So it came out in May, but it was in development for 10 years, 10 years,
wow.
10 months.
Okay, cool.
Isn't that so revealing? I said 10 years, like, yeah, indie, of course. 10 years.
And we can believe, we just all accepted it straight away. Like,
but this idea that this game, like I said before, this game is still, even in 2025, is still relevant. Everything it's talking about is still happening. And I just think it takes a very nuanced, special game to do that. And, in 2020, we were having this whole kind of ridiculous conversation about, should video games be political? They're supposed to be fun and entertainment. Like, I don't want this shit in my video game. And I just feel like Umurangi went, fuck off.
Amazing.
Absolutely get fucked. Because it's about all that and more. Yeah. And I just think it's just such a good, if we're looking at games in like, and talking about politics, this Umurangi is just such a good example of a way that it can be explored in a, like, it just makes you think. And the developer and designer, like his voice and his like literally unfiltered opinion just rang true throughout that whole game. And yeah, I remember playing it and thinking it was one thing in the first level. I'm thinking like, oh, it's a big monster. It's like Evangelion, love that. And then it just turning into something completely, like the scope just like widened. And it's just like, yeah, I just really appreciated like what it was doing. I still appreciate it now. Like I think about that game a lot. And so 2020 had some big hitters, but I just feel like we need unflinching looks at these topics. And video games is such a great vehicle to do that in. Mm-hmm. And so buckle up. We're going for a ride. Oh, God. Anyway, Umurangi Generation, just play it. Let's see. Is it on sale? If we just had the Steam sale. It's a tenner. So it's just such a... It just has a point of view that is just so interesting. And we need more like it, for sure.
It's like...
Nice.
The fact that it uses photography as a means of resistance is just like so pertinent and so evergreen.
If you liked 1000X Resist and the kind of political undertones, not really undertones, the explicit messaging of that, try Umurangi Generation. It's kind of different, but if you like
they're of the same
video
piece,
games, if you like exploring games or like challenging subject matter, or like engaging with games on a certain level, this is like, the same genes as 1000 times Resist for sure. And it absolutely brilliant. Is. Yeah. Photography as a way of seeing the world, documenting what's happening to the world. Like, smart game.
It's like, not to get too into the weeds about the modern era we live in, but there's something quite refreshing about how it presents like photography as truth. In a way that maybe like we don't exist in a world anymore where that is the case.
Oh, I just got what like, you meant.
Yeah. So there's something almost like nostalgic about it now.
Because you use film in the game. You use I don't think it's a digital camera. I think you collect film canisters. Yeah. So it is just like it's an unflinching look at the truth. Like it cannot be like amended. Like it's just Oh
wow.
Oh God. Damn. Yeah, true.
It's a brilliant thing. And like people do talk about it, but it's quite accessible. I know what you're saying about how it has all these incredible like political themes, but it is also like a good photography game. It's like one of the best photography games out there. So like even if you like loved Pokemon Snap, If you want to like play something where you can just take like frame cool pictures and uncover things in the environment from like a list of things you need to take photographs of, it's
different
it's a
lenses,
really special thing. And there's a VR
filters.
version.
Yes, there is a VR version.
Yeah.
There's
You get
like,
on Quest
if you
2.
like games that let you be a bit creative, then this absolutely will
100%.
like this slaps. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
does.
just and the way that it like, so you have essentially like in each level you have like bounties you need to take photos of. So like you'll be basically a task ticking list of like, take a photo of this and this and this. And so at first it's kind of like, oh yeah, take a picture of some graffiti or whatever. But the way that those targets like guides your eye towards what is actually happening is so smart. It's so smart. Yeah, like it's just, and again, like if you also like dystopia or like, kaiju based games or Evangelion, it's very Evangelion, then give it a go. Give it a play. It's not that long either. I think it's like maybe 5 hours tops, DLC 6 hours.
Perfect.
Afternoon, evening game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Brilliant.
I think that would be my first one. So who would be next after May?
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're leaving the vaults to last. So that's
leaving the vaults.
like
Actually, my release date, my next one is my vault pick. So I'm going to skip over that one.
Yeah, skip that one.
I come in at November 2021 is my next one. So
okay, you're before me.
Summer 2021.
Okay, and I'm 2022. So
okay, Liam.
Are we just going in a round robin?
Yeah,
if we just
that's wild.
Not even on purpose. It's incredible.
That is so funny. So my next game is a heart pick that very nearly got in the vault, and that is Death's Door by Acid Nerve from 2021. A game that came out in the incredibly fallow year that was 2021. I remember summer 2021, you had Monster Hunter Rise. End of list. I feel like there was very few things coming out. This came out, and it's a game where you play as a little crow. And in this world, the crows are basically like the Grim Reaper. They harvest souls, but people have found a way of not dying. So they are surviving and living way beyond the time when they should have been, died and passed over to the other side. So it's set in this incredibly beautiful world that's also full of decay. It's a world in which the natural order has been upended, and the environment itself is a reflection of that. And sort of playing that sort of during the dying days of the pandemic just felt tonally very of a piece of the time. But it's a very, even though it's like an action adventure game, it's very similar to Zelda, but it sort of has Dark Souls like elements to it, in that when you die, all the enemies come back and things like that. So even though the combat is like really tight and really energetic, it's a very quiet and slow game in a way that I find it was really impactful at the time, and that's helped by this soundtrack that is just absolutely divine. When you go to the Crow world, which is all black and white, it's like this, 1920s like bureaucracy styled building. The music that plays in that particular bit is just so beautiful and sad at the same time. And this game is like maybe the best Zelda-like game that's not been made by Nintendo. I actually think in hindsight, I prefer this to Tunic.
I was going to say, if there was another one, it would be Tunic.
Yeah. It's very similar to Tunic, and I get why people love Tunic. I also very much like Tunic, but for me personally, I think Death's Door has more personality. The bosses in this game in particular are fantastic. I know that Rachel is a big fan of Granny.
I love Granny! Is it Grandma Potts?
Grandma Potts, yeah. This old woman with a pot for her head.
Oh, is it the Witch of Urns?
The Witch of Urns, that's it.
Grandma the Witch of Urns. Oh.
But it's funny, and it's a little bit sad, and it's reflective, and it's a little bit grim and dark, and it's also just beautiful. And I just think Death's Door, I don't know, it arrived quietly and then it sort of left quietly. And you hear some people talk about it, but I do think this was a very, very special game. And for me personally, it was the best game of 2021, which that's a big thing for me to say because Resident Evil 4 VR came out that year.
Oh.
But I still think that this is better.
Hell, that is a lot. Thank you for that. That really just put it in
very
perspective.
welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy we're talking about it. We've definitely had a little chat about it before, but I think the biggest difference between this and Tunic is the subject matter. This is about death and grief, but not in the way that's like, you know, that we normally see it. And I just think that's so, it's very charming as well. Like the different worlds are just so lovable. Again, like you said, the boss is absolutely incredible. Music, so good. It's just a really well-made game.
Yeah, it is.
I had to slap some mods help, because it's quite a difficult game in terms of combat. So towards the end, I was like, man, Grandma Potts was so long ago. I'm like she was one thing. I'm now dealing with like something else. Yeah. But it's well worth it. It's just such a lovely, quiet. Quiet is such a lovely way of describing it. Yeah. For how you're beating the shit out of what is it? It's not skeletons. What are there's the Pot Knight as well. God, that game is amazing. Is his name Pot Knight? What's his name? Potman. Pothead. Pothead?
Is it Pot Knight?
Wait, Pot.
He's got like stew in his head, right? Like,
yes, he's got soup.
Yeah, because the Witch of Urns makes his head into a pot, and then it's
and then there's that whole bit. Correct me if I'm misremembering, but like he could change back, but he does it because he has like a connection with her. Like she changed him, and now he just accepts how he's changed. There's something really sweet about his character. What was
that sounds right, because that's kind of like the whole idea of the game is that the bosses aren't usually evil, but it's just that because they've defied death, they've gone. The game is all about the natural order of things and about how unnatural it is to persist beyond your time, I guess, and how it corrupts and changes you. But yeah, maybe it's like her grandson or something. I think they were linked.
There's something going on there. Yeah,
yeah.
Just really,
I love this game.
It's a really sweet.
I'm due a replay. Yeah.
This is one of those games I'm like, I'd love to replay it, and then I look at my list and I'm just like,
I'm the same.
But I'm so happy I played it. It's a very sweet game.
Really good. Just reminds me very much of just a really hot weekend in 2020 playing this for review and just like sweating and being like, I want to leave the house so bad.
It's just put me in a frame of mind of being like, would it be too morbid to do a best games about, you know, coming to terms with death episode?
Nope.
I think that would be such a powerful list.
That would be really interesting. There's so many ways that games approach that as well. Just in terms of like playing a game, like death is something just like in most games, like you as a character die a lot. And what does that mean? And how does how do games use that?
It's been on my mind because I recently replayed Slay the Princess and got some thoughts on the back of that replay, and it just reminded me when Liam was talking about Death's Door, and I was like, "Oh,
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a topic, but that's like such a
add it to the spreadsheet." Right now.
Rachel, have you got the spreadsheet open?
I will momentarily. And then I can talk about Instars and Time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Death episode confirmed.
Death episode confirmed. Is it you next, Rebecca?
I think it's me. Yeah, I said November 2021. So if there's no more takers, then I'm gonna just go over and get my soapbox over here and like drag it over to the microphone. But yeah, I really want to talk about Sherlock Holmes Chapter One. I know that I go into this a lot, but I really do.
Let's
sing
go.
This game's praises because it's so good. This was my runner-up for the vault for sure. Because I will stand by this game. I think this game, which is Frogware's first independently developed game. So this was after they broke off with their publisher, after they started developing independently, but it was the weird in-between game that they did after becoming independent, but before becoming Kickstarter funded. So there's a lot of history to this game generally because it was the game that they were still developing at the point of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So there's obviously a lot of like very big considerations going on around the development of this game. But at the time when the base game initially released in, I believe, November 2021, that was obviously still a few months away. But the thing that got me about this game, and it's one of the things that I'll often talk about, is it really upended all of my expectations in a way that has left a really lasting impression on me. So Frogwares and their take on various, usually Sherlock Holmes, but they also do a lot of like video games of late 19th, early 20th century literature. They also do Dracula games. They also do Lovecraft games. This studio has been a favorite of mine for years. And they specialize in delightful jank. It's just like such fun, like weird 10-hour mysteries. And when they were like, oh, we're going fully independent, I was like, great, good for them. And they're like, we're developing an open world Sherlock Holmes prequel game. And I was like, this is going to be a hot mess. This like open world detective games. My only point of comparison really was LA Noire. And I like LA Noire, but like I didn't play it like an open world game because the open world elements weren't the appeal remotely for me in LA Noire. So I came to this game, had to wait a while because I had to get a bloody PS5 before I could play it. that was a whole thing back in the day, if you recall. Yeah, I came to this game and like the prologue, I bounced off really hard. I played the prologue and I was like, this is whatever, and I didn't touch it for 6 months. And then I got back into it and I played about 60 hours in a month and absolutely fell in love with it. The prologue does not set this game up very well. It has a high bounce rate and I can see why. But in terms of demonstrating what you could do with an open world historical detective game on modern hardware, it is so impressive that I'm surprised it hasn't been imitated more. You can even take away the fact that it's a Sherlock Holmes game. I think if you just regard it as a historical detective, like open world game, for me, and I've said this on the other podcast I used to be on, the VG247 podcast, before they cancelled it. Sad times.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, I feel like this
sad.
kind of really, for me, rewrote the book on what a AA detective game can be and can do. I was getting really excited about this game again earlier, and I was talking to a friend of the podcast, Mick, and I was saying the thing that I love that I think other open world detective games have like never nailed in the same way is that in other games like this, it's like you see a crime on the street and you go and shoot the man. And in this one, it's more like you overhear people talking about a stolen violin on the street. This makes you think that perhaps you should go to the music shop where you bought your violin when you were a boy. And it goes down all of these deductive paths that just feel so very Sherlocky, but so very proper, like golden age detective stuff. There is combat in this game. I think it is the weakest part of the game. It is quite limited. It always takes place in arenas, which I think plays to Frogwares. Like, I didn't love The Sinking City, which was their previous open world detective game, because I thought the combat was so jank. It really detracted from the experience because people would just attack you whenever you were trying to do anything in the open world. So like to contain that within arenas and like let the story speak for itself elsewhere was such a good call. There's just so much to say. Like this game looks beautiful. When they were like, we're doing our most ambitious open world yet without publisher funding, I was like, okay, that's a real leap to take. But like it looks, other than the fact that the walk animations look really weird when they go upstairs, I think it really hangs together. It's when you know that they're walking up a slope even though they're walking upstairs in like
there's kind of a smoothness to it. You're just like
and they sort of like crouch in a really weird way, but literally of all of the complaints to bring, they look really weird when they walk upstairs is not like a terrible thing to say against something of this scope. And, as a big Holmesian, it's not the most, I mean, obviously it's like a prequel, so there's a lot of like leeway for them to kind of fill in a backstory. I don't think that it is the most likely when you look at it compared to the Sherlock Holmes canon, but it's one of the most fun and inventive like ways of imagining a backstory for a really, really well-known historical domain character. It's just a lovely game, and aside from a couple of dark moments, it is like a proper comfort game.
nice.
And like for a series that I have been into since the mid 2000s, to have the 9th or 10th entry set a new bar is like quite unusual. Yeah. I think, most of the time when you have like a legacy attachment to a franchise, it takes a lot to overcome whichever one was kind of your favorite in the early period when you played it. But this, for me, this is a game that I would recommend to anyone who wants to play like a cool detective game. It's also like a game that I've encountered people who are otherwise very much what you would call like, I don't know, like quite traditional in terms of gamers. They'll be like, oh, I play Call of Duty and I play the new FIFA and I played Sherlock Holmes Chapter One and I loved it. And you'd be like, all right, let's talk. Like we have something to talk about. It's like, it's got that kind of broader appeal. It's from a studio who are really, doing a lot to retain their independence, which I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a lot of fun. Just lifts my mood just talking about it. And he's so cute. He's such a cutie. They both are.
All I know about this game is the things you've told me about it. And I love it when people like jank 7 out of 10s.
Yes,
and
it's beautiful.
Like, you've got to hand it to Frogwares. They keep trying. Like, they've not stopped, like, which I think is great. But all I know about this is that it's like, it's got terrible combat and they yassified Sherlock Holmes.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
It's just great. I love that for him.
No, it's like, I love that Frogwares, people were like, you're going to jank, and they were like, yeah, it's great, isn't it? And like, they just really went, no, we're capping it at a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
We're not going to let it go higher than that. It's what we do.
It's such a powerful message. And people like them. They buy them. They keep getting enough money to make more. So, yeah.
No, it's
good pick.
A studio that I like a lot. And I like I say, this game set a new bar for me for like weird AA mystery. And I was like, I love it so much.
Nice.
Hell
Very
yeah.
good pick.
I believe it's Rachel next.
Here we go, gang. This is the
Let's
one.
go. Let's get into it.
Let me just like stretch a little bit before you bring this up.
So we were having a chat in Discord, and we were, like Rebecca said at the top of the episode, we were kind of approaching all this differently. And I was looking through my list of games from 2022, because my game's from 2022. And this is a we've mentioned this game a lot on the podcast, but have never talked about it. And that is Immortality, which came out in August 2022. And yeah, we're going to have a chat about it because I feel like we've always alluded to it and why we don't like it. But like, I really would like us to have a chat about it because for me, I don't hate this game. But there are aspects about it that make me hate it so much. Like, I hate those aspects so much that it ruins almost the sheen is taken off this game. Like, you might know this game as being journalists everywhere love Immortality. Wow, art game, Sam Barlow, Immortality, amazing. And a lot of it is true. Like, it's very much evokes that response. This game is about films. You play as with Sam Barlow's other games, you play as sort of detective role. You're looking through the kind of clips of 3 films, one that was set in the 60s, one in the 70s, and one in the 90s. Yeah. And they all have the same movie star, and her name is Marissa Marcel, a very Hollywood movie star name. And essentially, your job is to find out that this actress is missing. You're going back through her filmography and also like her interviews and other aspects of her life on screen and trying to figure out what happened to her, which is fucking great. What an absolute hook for a game. You are scanning these films. You're like looking for clues. There are moments where you can click on an object on the screen and it will match cut to the object in another movie. So the way that you interact with these 3 films is not linearly. It is like you can approach it. Sorry, just had a bit of a stroke there. You can approach it kind of like where your detective lead brain wants you to go. So you see a gun, you click on the gun, then you get to see another film, another clip where the gun is present. You see like the obvious one is clicking on Marissa herself. Like you click on her at a certain age, you will see her in an interview of the same age talking about the film you've just watched. It is so fucking good with what it does. And I'm not even telling you the real quote unquote aspect of the game because it is such a mindfuck and it is so smart. Yeah. And it's a big but. It's a big but. When this game came out, a lot of reviewers fell in love with it. And us at RPS very quickly began to realize that a lot of people who were loving this movie were men. A lot of male journalists were saying like, this is the best. This is the like one of the best games ever made. Sam Barlow's done it again. And I just feel like everyone else was a bit like, I don't know about that, Sammy boy. Like, and, you know, Alice Bell reviewed it for us, and it is hands down one of the best reviews on RPS. Well, while I was working there anyway.
It's stunning.
So if you want to know more in depth what we're going to be chatting about here, definitely go read that. But essentially what we're kind of going to tap into is this idea that this woman, the game is kind of touching upon voyeurism in film. Ooh, hello, Film Studies 101, which is kind of like a way in which you kind of put the viewer in a position where they have to look at an object, or in this case, a woman, in a certain way. This is also known as the male gaze. Oh, hello. This is Feminist Film 101. But so this, I guess, Immortality was trying to kind of talk about how Marissa Marcel as a woman was viewed on film, and how she was in control of her sexuality, and she would use that in certain ways, either to weaponize male directors or to kind of like take power over certain male people in her life. But it just doesn't come across that way, really. It really just comes across as super, super like invasive, and Marissa as a character is just not given any sort of personality beyond the fact that she's super horny and uses it against every man that she sees. And I just feel like, yeah, okay, I really respect that to be put in a position where you have to engage with voyeurism, you're literally put in the perspective of the person and what they're looking at, and the camera acts as like a pair of eyes. But at the same time, the game doesn't subvert that in any fucking way. Mm-hmm. So you're just in this space, and there's nothing that makes it like, oh, actually, it's really about this. It's just male gazy. There's nothing to kind of like imply that it's anything but that. And I just don't. And when I played it, I was like, I'm not clicking with it for this reason. And then when I saw other people chat about it and write about it, I was like, okay, there's a correlation happening. A correlation is correlating here. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, this game, it gets discussions talking about what is art and how we approach art, and maybe it should have been on the, what was it, video games or art list. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do think there's a conversation to be had here in terms of like, who is playing what games, who is writing about what games, and how a game is perceived in a certain space when only one kind of person is writing and playing it. And Immortality is that to a T. This is no shade on anyone who likes the game. This is an observation that I've made. I have known loads of women and loads of queer people who have loved the game. But from my perspective, definitely for us three and other people at RPS, it was an interesting conversation, because it was like, okay, everyone else fucking loves this game. Well, who is everyone else in inverted commas?
Exactly. It was interesting to be at what at the time was pretty much the only majority female or female-led gaming site, like major gaming site talking. And we were like the one site that wasn't in love with it. And like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate it either. I think, full disclosure, I haven't played it, but I have watched so many video essays that I feel like I got more than got the gist. And yeah, just to be like, I see what it does well, and it does its mechanics and its idea, like that idea of like the detection through the film. That's such a cool idea, and that is well so done. Good. But at the end of the day, I still do think that you can't, you can't kind of interrogate the audience's intentions in engaging with something when they're also required to uncritically engage with it for the game.
Say it louder for the people in the back, Rebecca. That is such a good way of putting it. Concise, to the point.
And, like, Immortality is not the only game that does this, but I agree with what you say. There are a lot of games that I do like that kind of run up against this, especially when it's, men talking about women, especially when it's kind of a more, I also find it when you have quite a sort of traditionally developed game that talks about queer people, and you feel like maybe there weren't that many queer people on the team, you'll also get the same. It's basically like you say, who is writing about who and who is talking about who, and then who is allowed to talk about the reception to it. And I don't hate Immortality. I think it's pretty cool most of the time, but also, it's got, and like I know a lot of people who I respect a lot and don't respect any less for their love for this game who've talked about it and have said, the lore goes so deep and there's like all these levels to it. And I'm like, and that, can be true, but also there is this big void in the middle of it with the main question we should have been asking, which just never got asked. And yeah.
Completely agree. It's so well made. The films are so era appropriate. I think all of the actors in it, including the woman who plays Marissa, are all brilliant. Really put their all into this project. And without getting into any kind of spoilers, the one trick it has when you uncover that and you peel back a layer, it is like genuinely one of the best sort of like oh fuck moments in games I've experienced in a long time.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
I totally get what you're saying. It's all visuals. It's all like vibes, and there's no substance, in my opinion. And it's not questioning the parts of this that I wanted it to question. And there is a supernatural element. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
and it just draws all of the oxygen out of the thing you want it to be about, and it sort of gets into this like, I don't know. It's. Female empowerment is a supernatural curse. Is maybe sort of how it sort of goes down that path a little bit.
Written by a woman would fucking rule.
But because
it's
different.
Sam Barlow, and I love her story, and I actually quite liked Telling Lies. But again, I just for a third time in a row, I feel like maybe you should turn the camera somewhere else, Sammy. Like, women don't want to be viewed in this way anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating because it's just you can really, how do I put this? It's hiding behind its own artistic merit, or this idea that like, not merit, I don't know how to describe it. It's artsy, and so. Boobs and butt and sex. There's like this, like, I don't know. It just doesn't come across as like any sort of point. It just comes across as like,
I do definitely know.
A bit of shock, but also like, she's a woman having sex. She's in control. She's powerful. And it's like, what the fuck? I want to see her be powerful with her clothes on. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? Like, Alice made a very funny point when she was playing it. You could match cut Marissa's tit. So you click on one of her boobs in one of the films and it would match cut to her nipple in another film. Yeah. It would just be, what the fuck?
That's the bit that's always stuck with me from Alice's review.
It's
just...
And it's like, okay, the game is probably trying to make a point, but it doesn't counteract it in any sort of way. It doesn't question you. It's just there. And it's just, I think I'm getting like this because like everything we've pointed out here, the potential is unreal. Like this game is really like pushing what video games are, but this, oh god,
you're totally right. You're totally right. And the boob, the zooming in on the boob is the game in microcosm because you're making me the voyeur, but that's your whole point.
Yes.
Your point is, look, but you clicked on the boob, didn't you?
Look at you, yeah.
What does that say about you?
Dirty slag.
I don't know what it says about me. I didn't film her naked twice and put it in the game.
Yeah,
That
you did the match
like,
cut. You match cut to another boob. You could have match cut to something else that would have shocked you, but it doesn't subvert those expectations in any way. Like, I don't know.
When you zoom in on the boob, it should have turned on your Kinect camera and it should have reflected me back, just 4 chins, controller in hand. And it should have just said, think about what you did. That would have been better.
Yeah.
Or just, you click on the tit, the game goes black, Immortality appears in massive text, and the game ends.
I love that. And then it phones your mum and tells her what you did.
Your mother.
But yeah, I get what you mean, because it is a resentment that I've had in other games as well. Is like, it comes in when a game like chides you. It's like, look at who you are because you did this thing. And I'm like, it was the only mechanic that would advance the game. I don't feel like it says anything about me that I didn't stop playing your game rather than, it's a frustration, right? I mean, like,
it's contentious as well, saying like, look at the people who reviewed it. But sometimes I would like people to look at who's writing about games and why a game is being received in a certain way, and just look at who's writing about it. Like,
definitely. Oh my god. Okay, I've got a real strong set of opinions about games for, or like primarily targeted at young girls and young women, being reviewed by exclusively middle-aged dudes who are like, I don't get it. And I'm like, and that's fair, and you deserve to have the space to say that you didn't get it, but maybe someone in the target demographic deserved a word about this as well. And
we just need more voices. It wouldn't be a problem if there were lots of different voices chatting about all these games.
Absolutely.
But like, when you see that there's overwhelmingly one type,
no, it's
I don't know how I'm coming across, but I don't want anyone who likes Immortality to be like, clutching their pearls. Like, I'm telling you, I'm a woman and I played this game and this is what I thought as a woman. You can't take that away from me.
Well, indeed.
And the reason why I think this is stuck in our minds more than probably it would have done if we played it at any other time is because we're all on staff.
Yeah,
like you say, at a primarily woman-led website, and it was just so blatantly obvious about what was happening. And I think that it's just an interesting perspective of the, yes, games media is at the moment being, gutted, but even back then, 3-4 years ago, it still, the marginalized voices were just not there. It was the same people who've been writing about games for so long. Yeah. Take it from me, I'm one of them, and I like. Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't have said half the stuff that you've just said about Immortality because it's from that different perspective.
But it's also, but here we go. You're on a podcast with us two and you have friends. You're in our space. You're in that space. Other people who write these reviews are not. Like, me and Rebecca, you as well. We've all written for websites where they're majority guys and they don't engage. They're in their own bubble. So to be honest, when we're talking about these spaces, it's like, even like us all writing for RPS, like, you were in the right space. Like, other websites, which are very, is this going to turn into a thing? Do you know what I'm saying without me saying it?
No, I do. I totally get what you're saying. I think, but what's great about Alice's review is that it was no question that Alice should have been the one to review it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what made it so good. It's like, they didn't give it to me. They didn't give it to Ed. They gave it to Alice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, when Code came in, I was like, you are reviewing this. I was like, you take this on.
But that is what's so great about a diverse and eclectic media landscape, right? Is if there's so many different voices, you want 5 completely different people from 5 different backgrounds to be talking about something from different perspectives. I totally get what you're saying.
Also, I'm really worried that during one of my passion speeches, my tummy rumbled and that you can't edit it out because I was talking over it, so the tummy rumble might have to stay in.
And nothing invalidates a point like a little grumbly tummy.
Like a little grumpy tummy. Me being like, this, and then like a little burp.
Like, oh, wait, hold on. She's hungry. I don't care what you said at all now.
You gotta own that. That is the patriarchy talking. You're allowed to be hungry. I don't think we're going to beat that energy, but shall we throw in our numbers for the last round of honourable mentions?
Yes. Let's zip through these. We're gonna be here.
I think mine's going to be real quick. I think mine's probably going to be last because it's from last summer. So
mine's 2023.
Okay.
Mine is just a list of things that I wanted to just like give a shout out to as games I've really loved from this.
Yeah, go
so,
for it.
Against the Storm, incredible roguelike city builder, absolutely love it.
Lovely.
Dredge and Paradise Killer, which are already in the vault, so please go listen to those episodes for more opinions about that. Case of the Golden Idol, which is an all-timer puzzle game and detective game that we have spoken about. El Paso Elsewhere, I mean, it's a banger. What else do you want me to say?
Yeah.
1,000 Times Resist, and Thank Goodness You're Here, and Crow Country, all from last year. Listen to our Game of the Year episode for more info on those games, but they're all certified classics. Unpacking, which is a game that didn't make a huge amount of like waves when it came out, but it stuck with me more than like most games I've played over the last 5 years, I would say. Cultic. I always just mention Cultic. I think
love
about Cultic a lot. I love Cultic. I love exploding heads in that game. I'm an idiot. And also, like, I was thinking the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which was basically like a sequel to the Stanley Parable. That is just a fantastic game that came out like 2 years ago now.
Damn,
what is time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible game. So those are just a bunch of games from the last first half of this decade that I think are absolute bangers.
Hell yeah.
Cool. I might actually take the opportunity to leap in here because Liam actually mentioned mine in his list, so I think I might just draw it out a little bit. So yeah, I was going to mention Thank Goodness You're Here, which was already, if you listen to our Game of the Year episode last year, I mentioned it as my indie game of the year, for sure, from 2024. But I've got a bit of hindsight on it now, and I do find that often when I'm doing Game of the Year lists, I'll be very passionate, and I don't know at the time what's going to stick with me and what isn't. But with the benefit of hindsight, even at the time, I don't think I realized quite how much Thank Goodness You're Here had become part of my life. It's become a comfort game for me. Watching it streamed or replaying it has become such a big part of just how I kind of calm down and cheer up if I need to. And I quote it all the time. I am delighted by how much attention it's receiving so far at the BAFTAs, which have been nominees have been announced now. The ceremony's not been yet. I don't know if it will have been by the time. Anyway, you may or may not know. I can't remember what date this episode goes out on, but it is so, we've talked about it at great length last year. I think there's at least 3 episodes of us talking about it, including an interview with the devs. So definitely go back and listen to those. So I'm not gonna belabor the point, but yeah, it has, with hindsight, leapt pretty high on my list of games from the last 5 years, and I think it deserves that place and will probably stick around. Mm-hmm. Having now got a bit of because that first playthrough, I played it, I loved it. I've played and loved a lot of games, which I then never really thought about again. But this is one that I keep coming back to in a way that feels significant. So
nice, yes.
There we go.
Yeah, hard agree.
And then my last honorable mention is Cocoon. I've been playing a lot of Cocoon recently. Cocoon came out in 2023. It is a puzzle game, puzzle adventure exploration?
Yeah.
Puzzle adventure exploration game where you play as a little bug person and you are scuttling around, you come across a marble and you can jump into the marble and there's another world. And there's more marbles with other worlds. And so the idea is each puzzle requires you to kind of inception leap in and out of different orbs and use those orbs and their different abilities to make your way through different worlds. I've definitely chatted about it before on the podcast because I was really taken by it in 2023. It was my favorite game of the year. And yeah, just looking back through this list, this was a vault potential for me as well. Maybe in the future, I'm not sure. But yeah, I just think the way that this game communicates to you as a player is just something I've never seen in any other game before. This game is completely dialogue-free, text-free. There's only one button input, so you just have one interaction button and then your joystick to do all these puzzles. There's boss fights, everything is just one button and a joystick. And I just think the way that it communicates to you through different means, what you need to do, where you need to go, how to complete puzzles, what things do, is just bonkers in terms of when you play a video game, all the signals, visual signals, audio signals, text, dialogue, movement, character animation, it's all communicating something to you. And I just think Cocoon does it in such a seamless way that some of the puzzle solving you'll be doing in that game is just, by the end, you would never expect to be at the end from where you were at the beginning. You're doing kind of simple jumping in and out of different worlds at the beginning. And then by the end, it's just mind-boggling. I honestly, and I've said this before, could not explain the last several puzzles of that game because it's just, I just felt it. I played that game purely on a sensory experience alone. And it was just unmatched the way it just it's just a good example of stripping everything away and just set through your senses, understanding what the game wants from you. And it's just a masterclass in that. It's just so fucking good. And when we're talking about puzzle games, it has a really great way of guiding you through certain sections and teaching you certain rules, but completely dialogueless. There's no pop-ups being put the orb here and you can then take the orb inside that orb and collect the other orb. Absolutely not. Everything you learn is through careful consideration of music cues, of very subtle tutorials, which you don't realize are tutorials. It's just so good. And I just really love that game. Like I said, I've been playing it a lot recently, and I just think what it's doing is it's just so fucking good. It connects with my neurons in a way, which I feel I don't even need to try when I'm playing Cocoon. There's no effort in it. Like, some of the boss fights, I guess, are a bit challenging, but they're not challenging. That's the wrong word. They're just like, you don't die, but you get set back a little bit. There's no death states in Cocoon. But like after 2 or 3 tries, you're good to go. Like, they're not difficult. It's just, again, teaching you for the benefit of the puzzles and somewhat the world building if you're really into all that. Because if you are, there's like a whole lore thing going on. But if you're not, absolutely fine. The puzzles are really will just scratch your head in the most satisfying way. So yeah, just in terms of just the communication aspect when we talk about video games, Cocoon speaks the loudest. There it is.
Nice.
Yes, that you got it. You nailed it. Stuck the landing.
That would be mine. Almost a vault pick, but maybe in the future. We'll see how we go. But I just really fucking love that puzzle game.
I think we can establish that the vault is infinite and
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my last one. Before we get on to the big 3.
Well, yeah, in that case, I think it's time we did the ceremonial opening of the vault.
Oh, it's time.
Da 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 da. Go on, Rebecca, you open it.
I know, it's scary being the host. I think I haven't hosted a vault episode before. I think it's my first.
Oh, I don't think you have. Yeah.
This is such an honor. Well, I feel like, okay, I know that we've established that there is a big spinny wheel on the front of the vault,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we need to add elements every time, and I feel like a golden key is called for. And, you know, some sort of elaborate locking mechanism.
Do we all have our own keys that we keep around our necks on chains at all times?
On chains at all times, yes.
And we put them in at the same time and
twist them. Yeah. Mine's covered in jam permanently.
Oh, sticky.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mine and Rebecca's are normal. Did you want
yeah, exactly. So no, just normal keys. What's wrong
Weird
with you?
detail. Thanks, Liam.
Cool. It would be strange if mine were also covered in a breakfast food. Why would that be?
Yes, and
yes, and it's weird. Yeah.
No, stop. Yes, and it's weird.
Yeah. So the 3 keys in the 3 locks simultaneously turned. The wheel spinning. Does the door open? Is it kind of like a slide to the side? Does it pull up into the ceiling? I feel like we need to establish this.
Ooh, you know that bit in Willy Wonka where the door looks giant, but when he actually opens it, it's small?
Yes, that's 100% what it is.
Yeah,
it's just a little door that opens up in the middle of it.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
incredible.
Brilliant. Love it. Love
There you
it.
go.
So we haven't been here. We haven't been here since last August, I want to say.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bit dusty.
Bit dusty. We want to leave that door open while we're in and air it out.
Yeah, I forgot that Rachel left Bjorn's corpse in here. I forgot that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not doing well after a year.
I'll have to get him taxidermied.
I think it's beyond taxidermy now.
And there's the pit of peanut butter or whatever it was. See, what is it with you putting
what
breakfast foods in here, Liam? Stop bringing
what?
I can't remember the peanut butter bit.
I also don't remember the peanut butter.
Wait a minute. No, it was mud, but inspired by the peanut butter baby meme.
Oh,
It was
yes.
a pit full of
You're
mud,
right.
possibly mistakable for peanut butter.
Like the mud pit's all like cracked and hard and just a pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably come here more often. I think we played around at Halloween, but never actually came in, as I recall.
Yeah, it's true.
So-
It stinks in here. I don't want to be in the pit, actually. Even by my standards, the pit's not for me.
But still, at the back of the room, there's still like the gorgeous trophy case, which is where the picks are stored.
Mine and Rebecca's picks are stored.
Yeah, Liam's
pit.
are in the pit. I thought that we were like, what was it? 3 copies. There's one to play, one to display, and one to chuck in the pit.
Yep.
So
Sure. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I feel like the scene is sufficiently set now.
I know, we go into so much detail about the
The
vault.
thing is, right, this escalates. This is our 4th vault episode, including season 0, and it always builds. And like pretty soon, we're going to have to put so much time aside just for the escalating scene setting on every occasion.
Speaking of that, should I run through what's already in here before we
Yeah,
add
that's a
3
great
more to it?
idea.
Yes,
That's a great
So-
idea. Thank you.
Currently in the Indieventure Vault, we have Hotline Miami, Journey, Proteus, Dredge, Hades, Disco Elysium, Stardew Valley, Kentucky Route Zero, Firewatch, Hypnospace Outlaw, Return of the Obra Dinn, Monster Prom, and Paradise Killer.
Amazing.
See, this is one of the reasons I thought that it would be a good idea to do this episode now, because only 4 of those are from 2020, as a matter of fact, not the 2020s, but 2020. So we need to get a bit more recency in here without being too biased towards the latest shiny thing. So, no, Dredge is 2022. Tell a lie. There's 2023. There's one more recent game in there, but we need to start filling this vault with more recent games. So that's what we're here to do today. And who would like to go first?
I don't know what yours is, Rebecca.
I don't.
Do you know what? I put it in the Discord earlier.
Scrolling, looking.
It was in one of my massive stream of consciousness rants in the Discord where you were both probably having dinner like sensible people. So it's, it's understandable.
I was getting my haircut.
Oh, yes.
I'm happy for you to go first, though, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll go first. So this is a game that I have talked about before, but I think that because I talk about it in context with a lot of other things, the impact it had on me is sometimes lost. And, I've gone really heavy on the heart picks for this episode. That's how I wanted to structure my contributions here. And on the, I think with the exception of Thank Goodness You're Here, my passion in this is to, bring some games that kind of got overlooked or, got their review and then kind of got passed over. And be like, hey, these games are really something special if you kind of go back to them and give them a chance a few years on. And yeah, it's exactly the sort of thing that a weirdo like me would love. I love Boyfriend Dungeon, and that is the game that I want to put in the vault today as my favourite indie game of 2020 through 2024.
Making my way across the land. Got everyone in the palm of my hand. Perfect fit what I need. The power helps me stand. Pressure makes a diamond.
So this game, I'll give a little bit of context, which I know we need to get better at doing, especially me. This is from one of my favorite genres of indie game, which is the dating sim hybrid, which is where you just take a dating sim and you take a often quite disparate other genre of game and just introduce them to one another and see if any sparks fly. And I think that sparks did fly on this one, which is a dating sim that's also a roguelite dungeon crawler, where the kind of USP, the gag, the gist is that you date your weapons. So this game takes place in a world where people can transform into various, mostly kind of like medieval swords, and obviously that's the big thing was dating the swords. Mostly kind of not very modern weaponry, although there's one interesting exception who's very sci-fi, probably get into in a bit. And it's a good, if you're like me and you love Hades but can't get into how difficult Hades can be. Look, don't hate me, okay? I'm not very good at it. It's kind of a much more friendly. No, it's not ludicrously easy, but it is a simpler dungeon crawler than, it's a great entry level dungeon crawler game. It's also pretty good. I would say it's a good game to introduce people to dating sims, and I think that it's one of the best written dating sims I've played because of the way it interacts with the dungeon crawling genre. It brings agency to characters who so often in games when there's romance involved, it's give them enough gifts until they love you. But the fact that there is this relationship constantly between your character and the people who turn into the weapons that they wield in the dungeon means that there is actually a sense of a relationship there that exists beyond, throwing gifts at them until they like you. It brings an extra dimension to both the characters and the relationships between the characters, which is really nice and special to see. Obviously, I play a lot of weird dating sims, and sometimes you can become a little bit aware that you're just trying to give the right answers at the right time, give the right gift. It can start to feel really hollow, but the fact that in this game you balance a lot of factors, including how much you enjoy combat with your chosen partner, is such an interesting extra dimension to bring to this. Another thing that I really appreciate about this game is the variety and realism it brings to the various romance routes and relationship routes within it, because you're not necessarily forced into a romance. In fact, there's one character who you can't romance because they're a literal cat. But they are still given a full route, the same as everyone else, to kind of, explore the importance of like very platonic relationships as well, even in the life of someone who's looking for a romantic partner. This game, and I've played through every single route in this game to the very end, has a kind of, despite its obvious silliness, a realistic approach to the challenges of relationships that I find incredibly refreshing. By the end of this game, some of the relationships will have failed regardless of what you do because the people aren't right for each other or aren't in the right place to start a relationship. Other things will be getting quite serious, but a lot of them kind of end on a note of actually in-game only a few weeks have passed, so we've just kind of met and started dating and there's not a clear idea of where this relationship's going, but we like each other and we've had a nice time. And that's, you know, worthy in and of itself, which I just find so lovely. A lot of dating sims are like very focused on the and now you get married ending, which is you know, it's a little bit like, I get
yay,
it's a fantasy fulfillment for a lot of people, but if you're kind of more interested in the journey than the destination, I guess this is a very nice way. And this game portrays that. Another thing that I love, and like this is probably the reason that I really dearly love this game, which came out 4 years ago now. I still think about it all the time. Is it every character, as is traditional in any relationship simulating game, has a set of problems that you learn about, but it is never on you to solve them as the romantic partner. You are given, you know, the opportunity to understand what people are going through, to maybe advise them or maybe support them in something that is on their mind, but it's never treated as you're there to fix them. And I think this is so important, especially because my chosen like partner at the end of the game was Seven. Seven is a character who suffers from clinical depression. It's not the core problem, if that makes sense, in his route. He has an actual tangible thing that he's trying to deal with at the same time. But it has some really good, really meaningful conversations about being in a relationship with someone with clinical depression, someone who is always probably going to have that in their life. And they don't need to be fixed, and they deserve to be happy now. It's not a case of you need to overcome everything like this before you deserve to be happy and in a relationship. And I just find that so refreshing and so realistic and so affirming that I am still absolutely in love with this game. It is one of my favorite games. And every route has, or almost every route in this game has something like that will really grasp your attention. Another route that I love is Rowan's, which is about grief. You know, there's like Rowan has lost a grandparent recently who is very important to them. And there's the fact that the characters will sometimes not be on their best behavior because they'll be, you know, really going through some stuff. And if you go through that with them and understand where they're coming from, you gain a better understanding of them as people. Sawyer just can't quite handle being an adult yet, which is why I didn't actually romance Sawyer, because I found it all a bit much, but I appreciated what they were doing with that story of like a young person living alone for the first time and just kind of struggling with day-to-day life stuff. I just think there is so much to this game, and you get to smooch the hot swords, and the combat is pretty fun if you don't mind a fairly basic combat loop.
Yeah.
It's got so much, and it's such a Rebecca game. So yeah.
It really is. I think it was about time that you put Boyfriend Dungeon in the vault.
Hell yeah.
It was
Sits
its
with
time.
Hades so beautifully next to Hades. It's like you graduate onto Hades once you've got your eye in on the combat with Boyfriend Dungeon, and then you're ready to have your heart ripped out of your chest by Hades because you've already kind of been through a way more intense emotional experience than you were expecting with Boyfriend Dungeon. That's what I think anyway.
Yay, I'm very happy that it's in the vault.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Hell yes.
I need to play this.
It deserves more love than it got because I feel like it had, you know, its moment on launch, which was unfortunately a bit fraught, and then it kind of got dropped, and that was kind of it. And it is such a shame that can happen, especially with indies. So I am a big proponent of reassess, you know, after a few years, especially because this had a substantial content update that kind of provided all of it was a free DLC that kind of finished the game, which is how a lot of games, especially over the past few years, have been kind of handling their Steam launch. And so there now is like a very satisfying ending as well that I thought was rather lovely. Totally worth a play. Please play it if you haven't and you think it sounds at all cool, because I love this game.
Great entry in the vault. Love that.
Yeah.
In it goes.
Chuck it in the
Gently
pit.
placed. No. Oh yeah. Like,
No,
look,
not the pit.
I'm like dangling the spare copy that's all beat up. Like, there you go. Put it in the pit. And then I put the pristine copy
I was going to
on
say
the shelf.
I'm jumping out the pit like some kind of like fish, but actually I just stand up and the pit is not that deep and I'm not a tall guy. So actually I just stand up and it's just my ankles are in the pit and I just gently take it from you and then lie back down in the pit.
I can go next.
Go for it.
So my pick for the Vault is a game that, God, I feel like I've talked about so many of these games to death. But yeah, my pick for the Vault is Citizen Sleeper. It's the right time for Citizen Sleeper with the sequel having come out this year and it being an absolute banger. It's a really nice time to revisit the first one and what it kind of set out to do and why the sequel, it just had the perfect launch pad to be an amazing game. So yeah, let me, one more time, talk about this game. Maybe not one more time. Maybe we'll revisit this game in the future for years to come. But yes, Citizen Sleeper is a sci-fi dystopian, kind of a visual novel, but there's also like 3D elements to it and exploration elements to it, where you play as someone called a sleeper who is a artificial body with a human mind. You are owned by a corporation, but your particular sleeper has escaped the corporation and is now on the run. When they escaped the facility, they ended up on this kind of rogue satellite station called Erlin's Eye, which has its own community of people, and you as a sleeper have to just survive, just live, whilst also this threat of this corporation finding you like looming over your choices on the day-to-day. The way this works is you have dice rolls, you have 5 dice, you have different choices you can make, you can apply your dice rolls to different choices and get different outcomes based on like how high you roll. And it's just really good. It's again, kind of like with Umurangi Generation, it comments upon a lot of like quite serious political aspects, but done in a way in which cyberpunk is supposed to fucking do, instead of it being like all neon and just like cool like techno music and just like, oh yeah, I have cyber arm and it turns to a gun. No, this is literally like what cyberpunk is supposed to be. Well, I say supposed to be about. It's criticizing like the worst parts of society and like exaggerated like moments and movements that we're going through right now, and in a way in which we can kind of like look at where we're going into the future and think of a future where this could be something that could happen. And yeah, I just think it's just a really great game in terms of how it handles its topics. Like the way things are described is beautiful. Like the text is just some of the best, like up there with Disco Elysium in terms of like the way things are described, the way that characters act, just characters in general being really like lovable, but also their point of view and how they're trying to survive is something that you also have to deal with. And like learning to trust these people and create a community around them and just learning how to survive is just, yeah, really, well, I say well done. In Citizen Sleeper, there is a kind of like a comfort you get into kind of midway in the game, which the second one is like absolutely not. So you have a hunger meter, you also have a stabilizer meter, which means that because you're a corporate-owned, essentially piece of merchandise, you can only survive a certain amount of days based on this product called stabilizer, and when you run out, your body shuts down. So many interesting conversations came out about this, about disability and just like in terms of transhumanism and your body and what that means. It was just, people really played this game and just found themselves in it in so many different ways and so many different characters. And I just think it's such a story-rich game that can like we've said this about 1,000 Times Resist, I do feel like this could be like a text piece to study in like in terms of like looking at video games in terms of storytelling. And yeah, the sequel just absolutely had this amazing foundation to build on, and probably maybe might be my game of the year this year. So between 1 and 2, because we're not doing 2025, thank God you said that, Rebecca, because I would have been spiraled into an existential crisis, because Citizen Sleeper 2 wouldn't be what it is without this first game. And it is flawed. But I like how it's flawed in a way in which people are like, well, halfway through, you lose that kind of scrappy survivalness to it because you do get into a cycle of feeling comfortable. You understand the eye as a space a bit more. You know where the best place is to get good food for a bargain. You know the best place to work with your skill stats that you have. But I just kind of feel like, well, yeah, it's a moment where that comfortability, you've earned it. You literally have built up to it. It's you're relying on people and they're relying on you. And I like that. But I can see how mechanically people were a bit like they criticized it in terms of that. Of course, like I said before, Citizen Sleeper 2, absolutely not. My toes were curled. I was so stressed from beginning to end in a good way. But just, yeah, I really love this game. I'm happy that it's going in the vault. It's just a really fucking good sci-fi game as well. I don't really think I'm into a lot of sci-fi games, but between this and or another one, Signalis, I was considering maybe Vault Potential.
Signalis, yes.
So between those two, maybe Signalis' time is later in the future. But for now, again, like what I said, the second one coming out, Citizen Sleeper absolutely needs space in the vault. So in it goes, and I just drop kick it into the vault after saying all
violent.
that. Get in there, frisbee it in. Oh yes, I'm so happy.
I am too.
Amazing.
It deserves to be in here. I think it is a modern classic, and like that sequel. The sequel is great. I agree, but it doesn't exist unless it has the first one right there, and it's still a perfect companion piece to that sequel as well. The sequel does not eradicate the original. So I'm very happy to see it here.
And last but not least,
indeed.
Once again, this happens in the vault quite a lot. You two have put in very interesting narrative focused games, and I'm here to just no narrative whatsoever.
No, it's who we
Not
are.
my vibe. It
And,
really
like,
is who we are.
hell yeah.
But, like, for what it's worth, this knowing what's coming up, like, I like that we all have such different takes on things. I think it would be it wouldn't work if we didn't all have our own areas of interest and expertise that we were able to like pick stuff out of.
Completely agree. And now it's time for my ADHD brain to recommend the game that no one be surprised by. When I really thought hard about which games have had the biggest impact on me over the last, half a decade, unfortunately, the one that I had to pick is the one that is the most I've played a game in the last 10 years. At over 100 hours, I have to put Vampire Survivors in the vault.
Hell yeah.
Hey.
Vampire Survivors is a game I've spoken about a lot across all of these podcasts. It's a game that has been a constant in my life since it first came out in 2020. It came out in 2022,
I think. Yes.
Yeah, but then
it was up against Elden Ring in all of the...
Yes, and we had that great conversation where we all argued over whether it should be Vampire Survivors or Elden Ring, and Vampire Survivors won out.
Hell yeah.
It was a fun day at work. This came out in 2021 originally as like an itch demo and early access on Steam. And my relationship with this game started when a friend of mine, I was working at the place I was at before I joined the games industry full time. He messaged me and said, here's a link. You need to just try this out. It's a demo of a game called Vampire Survivors. Try it out. It's very, very fun. And I think I lost about 5 hours of my workday playing this demo on itch. And since then, it's just, like I said, it's been a constant.
Oh, so you were day one. I
was very, very early on. Yeah, I was like January 2022, I think, is when I first played this game. Yeah, as I joined RPS in February. So if you don't know what Vampire Survivors is, I'd be surprised if you've not encountered this yet. It is I think it's referred to as a bullet heaven game now, which I quite like.
I love that.
Which is such a great name for it. But effectively, you play as a single character on the screen, and you start off incredibly weak. You might have one weapon, one ability that will automatically attack. If it's a whip, it might whip out in front of you. If it's a wand, it might shoot a beam of ice in one direction. And the cooldowns will happen for 1 or 2 seconds, and then it'll constantly attack. And all you can do is move around guide your character around groups of enemies, thousands of enemies, and pick up the gems that they drop. And once you level up, you can pick another weapon or item to help you on your quest. And the game is about, at the start, it's about killing a handful of enemies and then dying quite fast. And slowly over time, you engage with its meta layer to upgrade your characters, unlock new characters, unlock new weapons and items, and eventually build up this armory of stupid weapons and stupid items until eventually you're an old man breathing garlic with 18 copies of the New Testament flying around you as the Among Us emergency button and megaphone blasts people out the way. It becomes just this absolute ballet of chaotic nonsense. And what I love about Vampire Survivors is that it is the power fantasy and the power curve of an RPG distilled into 30-minute chunks. After 30 minutes, you die, the Grim Reaper comes and basically just murks you. And it's all about getting that instant gratification of, I can kill one enemy at a time in minute 1, and then by minute 29, I am God, I am destroyer of worlds, you cannot touch me. But what I think makes Vampire Survivors stand out from its competitors in the games that it inspired. I've played a lot of a game, for instance, called Halls of Torment, which is like a Diablo-style version of this, and also Deep Rock Survivor, which is the Deep Rock Galactic spin-off, is that those games are played very straight. So like Halls of Torment is very stuck in that dark fantasy zone, and it's very good, but it's very like Diablo. But Vampire Survivors does not care. Vampire Survivors was meant to be a joke. It was meant to use Castlevania-like sprites from the Unity asset store, and it knows what it is, and it's completely unashamed about that fact. So now we're in a position where it has a bunch of DLC based on licensed properties. So you have a Contra DLC, you have a Among Us DLC, and they finally did get Castlevania in there with a Castlevania DLC last year. And it just keeps adding and adding and adding to it. And when it adds things in, they always feel like they fit in there because the game is not taking itself seriously. But what's great about it is they do keep adding new mechanics in. They add in so much hidden depths. There's so many secrets to find, so many fun characters to unlock. The Castlevania DLC is like twice as big as you think it's going to be. It like hides the second half of the DLC in there. And when you get to it, you're like, oh, there's so much more to this. And I've heard criticisms levied against it that it's just basically like a fidget spinner of a game. And I get that. I can sometimes play it as a bit of like a numbing tool. I always used to say that I would play it while editing podcasts, and that is true. I used to do that. Sometimes I'll just put it on the Steam Deck while I'm watching a video essay on YouTube, but it definitely has its place. And the mere fact that it is as good as it is, but also the fact that it has spawned off this entire new genre that is still super successful, and people still have an appetite for these specific types of games, whether it is action roguelike or, like I say, Bullet Heaven, which I just think is a great name.
So good.
I just can't not put Vampire Survivors in the vault. I do think it's for me personally, the most impactful indie game I've played in terms of just how much I keep going back to it and how much I keep finding new things in it and how much I'm still enjoying it 4 years later.
Oh, 100%. It belongs in the vault.
It does. It's a very it's so interesting how it really does it's like a bodily felt serotonin hit that's and the serotonin hit is so, like when the monks, they hit a wall and their fist is like this, quite small, but the impact is massive. Yeah. It's that. It's just the smallest thing. I'm just I'm set for weeks. This will last me hours. And I just think there's a very it's masterful in how it does that. From the speed of things to the the characters to the items to the it's just I love it. I love it too. I'm so happy to see it in there. You were early though. That game absolutely got its teeth into you early on. You had no hope.
I have to give a shout out to my friend Phil, friend of the podcast Phil, who started listening to this podcast maybe 6 months ago. And then I went to the pub with him a few weeks ago and he was like, you need to make more episodes. I'm caught up now. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Shout out to Phil.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah.
I think he got so into the podcast that his wife was like, why am I hearing Liam's voice so much in our house?
Excellent. I love it.
But yeah, Phil, He found it. He's the true indie gamer out of
true
out of me
tastemaker.
and him. He is indeed.
Should we put Phil in the vault?
But yeah, okay. Phil,
Oh,
you're in the vault now.
Look, no, don't,
alongside Bjorn.
don't equate Phil with Bjorn. No.
As a guest, Bjorn was never a guest.
Bjorn was an intruder.
I was gonna say, yeah, Bjorn was taken out by the gun turret in the corner the second you
Wait, there's
Oh
a gun
yeah, do we
turret
have a
in
gun
here?
turret?
What we do now?
We have a small
Yes.
pit, one nice shelf, and a military-grade gun turret.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That is a lot less surreal of an image if you played as much Danganronpa as I have. There's just always a massive gun turret in the corner of every room. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. To me, that's just normal now. I'm like, yeah, you would expect to see one.
Hell yeah, a nice trio of games.
I know.
We
I
did
know
it.
we say this every time, but this is a good-looking vault collection, you guys. This is
It's
Love it.
looking
This
good.
is looking real nice. Do we lock up or do we do the hyperfixations from in the vault and then lock up like off mic?
We
Does it just
can,
feel like
we can make a small fire in the center of the vault, and we can gather around it to do some hyperfixations.
I mean, this is a
Aw.
sacred space.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about hyperfixation? I mean, what is my... Well, I know... Oh, no, I'm fine. I just wanted to check. If mine was going to be something like Real Housewives, I couldn't talk about Real Housewives in the vault. I'd have
We
to
should not speak
Would
to
that
this in
feel
this-
wrong?
This hallowed
Yes.
place.
Yes, the
Yeah.
sacred place. But no, mine's okay. Mine's an indie game, so I'm fine. Actually, is it an indie? Wait. Oh, I don't think it is an indie game. Is 2 Point Museum indie? No.
Oh, see, I would say
No.
double. I would say solid double A because it's Sega and.
Thank God
is
it's
it-
in hyperfixations then. Okay.
But then it is like 2 Point Studios are they're definitely
Double A.
doing the double A.
well,
thing.
I'll have a
So
chat
I
about it
think-
anyway when we get into them. I'll have a chat about it.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so glad you're
Yeah.
talking about that because
Oh.
Mick has been playing. I got Mick 2 Point Museum for his birthday, and I think he's about 50 hours in or something.
Yeah, Yoli's
He's
similar.
Played a lot.
It's fun. I've played the other two. I played 2 Point Hospital. And what was the other one? 2
2
Point
Point
On
Campus.
Yeah, I played Campus as well. Did not really click with those two. This one, I'm having a... Are we in hyperfixations now? I'm just going to talk
Yeah,
about it. I'm
you're doing
having
it.
a
Okay, yeah,
great
we're in it.
time.
Yeah.
I'm having an absolute great time. I don't know what
it's
it
so
is.
good.
But I just feel like there's just something a bit different. Maybe it's the setting. Maybe it's the museum setting. But yeah, I mean, this is a management sim where you are just a museum curator, you're just making museums. But not just that, but like the themes are so cool. Like I'm really not that far into it at all. Because I spent 3 hours just on my first museum because
Yeah.
I was like decorating the shit out of it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just having such a good time. And I'm on the haunted house, house museum, and it's just like, this is so much fun. And
Yeah.
like the idea that you have to send experts away to like go and get artifacts to bring back, it also in like a not a weird way, like a colonial way, and just like a dinosaur bones, and
They're
and,
very
like,
good at like.
it's a cute
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm just having a great time. And I just felt, I did feel with the other two that they would not stress me out, but I would feel like hospitals, I don't know, I'd put like, oh, this looks kind of cute here. And same with college campus, it's like, okay, this is, but with a museum, it's like, oh, I can make things look so nice and pretty and presentable. Like,
Yeah.
although my God, there's like the bits where like the characters like jump on the artifacts and some people like lick them and stuff. I'm
Oh,
like,
it's so
get
funny.
your grubby mitts off my like
you can't get more security
fossilized
guards in there.
Yeti foot. Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, and the experts have to come along and clean it. I'm just having a really good time. I'm not really super into management sims. Like one has to really hit for me to get into it, but I'm really enjoying 2 Point Museum. I'm having a
It's
really
so
fun time.
charming.
It's so
It's-
charming. And I like that I can just really not be too worried this early on about like the money aspect of it. Like in the first level, I was just like, I'll buy this and this and this and decorate. Oh, buy as many hanging like leaf accessories and just, go ham on them. Put little dino prints on the
I was
floor.
about to say you doing the dinosaur footprints. 'cause
Yes.
Gotta do the
Mick
dinosaur.
has called me
Absolutely.
over to say, look how perfectly the dinosaur footprints lead you through the flow of the
Yeah.
exhibits in a sensible and beautiful
I
order.
just, I'm having it's a really good time. I'm having I'm having a good time.
I mean, the first two games were really good, but I think they have nailed it with this one. I think that they
Yeah.
have fully,
Yeah.
they've gone from a spiritual successor to like Theme Hospital to working out how to make
Yeah.
that entirely their own thing. And it's just, I can't wait. I love this one and I can't wait to see what they do next as well, because I think that now they've owned the formula so well, I'm like, what else could be in 2 Point County? I need to know.
Yeah.
I think what is so great about this is that 2 Point Campus went too big, too fast. And I think what museum
I felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I did.
And
I
I
felt
liked
like there was a lot
Campus,
going on.
but it was just too complicated. And museum is such a narrower focus. But what they've done is there's so much to find and so much customization and so much personality in it. It's really interesting. And I love Bullfrog games. I grew up with Bullfrog games. And obviously that is the team behind this. A lot of the developers who worked on those games, like Theme Hospital. And I just feel like they finally nailed that formula, like you say, Rebecca, because I think in hindsight, Campus almost feels like a bit of a misstep, which might sound a bit harsh, but I think Museum is so refined. You're almost like, oh, right, you needed to almost go big to realize that you had to go smaller.
Yeah. The scope had to be more narrowed.
It's so much better.
It's really
for
true.
it.
I mean, Mick and I have both said that like we probably wouldn't go back to either of the previous ones now, just because if you want to play a 2 Point game, this is the one that you want to play. But also it's like it's got that fantasy fulfillment nailed down, right? Because it's like, as Mick put it, and I think he really nailed it with this one, it was like, you don't really dream of being a hospital administrator or a university administrator, but you can dream of running a museum that beautifully displays the art. And it's like
100%.
It's got that aspect. We actually we skipped over 2 Point Campus very quickly because we both used to work on university campuses, and it was too much like
That's fair.
Even with the whimsical theming, it was like, oh, this is taking me back to like a bad place in my history of being stressed out at work. So, but yeah, just like the museum thing, it's just so charming.
So nice.
So charming.
Yeah.
It just looks great. I will say one thing about it though. If you're listening, you've got to get rid of those radio stations.
Really?
I actually agree. I don't mind them, but they're quite a lot.
They are a lot.
They're a lot. And I'm trying to concentrate, and there must be a way of like maybe just turning them off.
There is. And
Okay.
I do it quite fast. It's just a bit like I don't find the cheesy Gubbins bit that funny. It's like hasn't been that funny. And now it's 3 games in, and it's just like But other than that, great game.
Who's next?
I'll go because I have to just say that I can't talk about mine. So I might as well just quickly go and say that I am playing Blueprints, which is a game that we have all been given review copies of. We're going to do an episode on it. Is it 1 or 2 episodes time?
Next episode.
Is it next episode?
Next episode.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next episode is going to be our group review and like themed discussion on it. Currently it's under embargo and will still be when this episode releases, so I can't say any more other than to say that I have been playing it for 8 days and I'm 24 hours in. So
Yeah.
Take that as you will.
Yeah, I got it 2 weeks ago and I'm 20 hours in. So it will do that to you.
More of a teaser for our next episode, but there you go. That's the only thing I've been able to think about for the past week. So it's definitely my true and honest hyperfixation.
All right. I'll be really quick. My hyperfixation is last episode, I talked about Monster Hunter Wilds and I said it's the worst story I've ever played in a game. Wrong. The monkey paw curled because I've been playing Split Fiction by Hazelight. And my hyperfixation is, what are we doing here, gang? Why, how did we let this happen? So I ranted to you two about this on Saturday. We had a call.
Yes.
Split Fiction, I too am split on my opinion, because on the one hand, it is the best co-op game I think I've ever played in terms of just mechanical variety, the speed and the pace in which it runs you through all these incredible ideas is breathtaking. There's like throwaway mechanics in this that are like more refined than you'll find in some games, and you mess around with them for less than 5 minutes. And it's just wild that here's like get to do this, that EA bankroll them. Let them cook is my opinion about Hazelight as a collective. But my hyperfixation is that Joseph Fares, you gotta stop writing. I'm going to just very quickly go into why I think the story is so bad and just how I'm obsessed with it. And to be fair, part of my enjoyment is shouting at the screen. So this is a game about 2 women who both unpublished authors who go to a publishing company, you know, like Penguin or Random House, but the CEO has built a big machine called The Machine, first red flag, And this machine extracts ideas out of people's brains, like stories that they have for reasons. I don't know. Who knows? The two main characters, one is a sci-fi writer and one is a fantasy author. And the sci-fi writer is like a little bit reserved and a little bit like standoffish. And she loves sci-fi. And the fantasy writer, who I can't remember the name of, is like an English person who's like
Mio and
super
Zoe,
chatty.
right?
Thank you. Couldn't have told you their names. And this game exists in a universe in which if you like sci-fi, you don't like fantasy, and vice versa.
Right.
And my biggest thing about this game is that it's a game about, and like, we'll get over the fact that like all the jokes are really cringe and kind of like embarrassing to listen to and sit through. But this is a game about writing stories. So these are authors.
Mm.
And when you're in the game, they'll be like, oh, this is a story I wrote 5 years ago. And the story is like a race down some sand avoiding skeleton sharks. And I cannot tell you how many times I've screamed at the top of my lungs, what's the story you wrote? Because it's like, what? Oh, okay, so the story I wrote is they jump on a platform and then they hide behind something while something happens and then they climb up a thing and then they press a button. It's like, what? This doesn't work. It fundamentally does not work as a story about writing. It should be a story about video games. It should be a game about video game creators and the video,
Interesting.
and you're exploring the video game ideas that they have. And that would have just made the game sing. But as it is, it's a game about two unlikable people shouting at each other about subtext, which is very funny when you play the game, and being like, oh, this is a story I wrote about this thing, about my sister. And what's the story? That two characters just did environmental puzzles for 25 minutes? It sucks so much.
Oh my god.
But I would probably have reviewed it a 9 out of 10 if I was reviewing it. So
I cannot wait to play this game, and your rant has just made me even more excited.
Yeah.
we finally
Me
got
too.
a AAA game that had two women protagonists. And they
you
fucked it
imagine?
this hard. It's like, God almighty. Oh, it's
Oh.
ass. But I like it. Anyway, yeah. Split
Love a
Fiction.
Haze-like game.
Good
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic Haze-like.
Oh my god, amazing. Well, that is delightful. Oh, the idea of like, I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards and just
Oh, it's like-
story
Sure.
and
Oh, it's,
Yes.
Okay.
oh, see, I'm just gonna picture them both as Garth Marenghi, and I'm sure it'll go down real smooth at that point. Just
God, if this game had two Garth Marengis and that was it,
That would be incredible.
love that. This is the thing. I wish it had no story. Next time, just make a vibes-based game where you play as two. I don't fucking know. Two sticks.
that's not how they do. though.
I know, but I like the cringe.
I know, that's the
like
thing.
the cringe.
It goes
I mean,
too
you guys
far.
know.
It
You guys
goes
know
too
A Way
far.
Does
Out
it?
is
Oh, okay.
one of my favorite
Uh-huh.
games. So It Takes Two didn't do it for me as much. A Way Out, I love, and I love that it's cheesy and weird, and that they don't talk like real
A Way
people
Out
at
is
all. and
wild.
they act so strangely all the time, and I love it.
Two wooden. It's like I want to be a real boy energy from both of them. These two
Yeah.
fully grown men.
Yes. Oh, it's just the charm of it so clearly being two Swedish actors voicing two American characters, and like it's so like. It's just lovely. It's so nice.
I must admit, the actors in Split Fiction, God love them. They are doing their best. Like, it's no shade on the actors. And like the mocap in particular, like Mio's mocap is like surprisingly impressive. You're like, oh, they're capturing a lot of nuance in her performance, which
Yeah.
the script is not showing up for.
Oh,
But yeah.
I love it when actors do that though, when they really, really throw themselves into it. Fairly
Bless
me
them.
too.
script. It's so good. It's like
As we say in the UK, bless them.
well, that was all three of us picked games this week. That doesn't actually happen that often. That's
Oh yeah, it
that's
doesn't.
it's actually been a good, like, I think March 2025 has been a good month for games. It's had so many interesting releases.
Absolutely.
It's a strong, I know we're not quite at the start of the year, but it's been a pretty strong start to the year, which I'm sure we'll get into in our next games of however long we choose to make the time period episode, which will
Yes.
probably be.
Oh, in 2030, when we do the second
I was
half
more
of the
thinking
decade.
as we generally do, first half of the year. So I was thinking more like June than 5 years' time, but, whichever.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Whichever. So, yeah, I think that probably brings us to the conclusion of this episode. This has been a ton of fun, you guys. Thank you for indulging me in my silly need to make a checklist and talk about games from the years we weren't podcasting that I really needed to rant about for a while. So,
Yeah, love it.
yeah, and thank you everyone for listening. The 80% of you who've made it this far, cheers.
We love you.
It's lovely.
Yes, you're the real heads.
Lovely to have you here as always. So yeah, until next time, goodbye everyone.
Bye.
Indieventure is a video games podcast created, produced, hosted, and edited by Rachel Watts, Rebecca Jones, and me, Liam Richardson. For more information, including a list of every game we mentioned in this episode, make sure to check out our website, indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can get in touch by sending your questions, comments, and feedback to contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can support the show by rating us 5 stars and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast provider of choice. Some of the games we talk about on the show may have been provided to us for free for review consideration. Our intro music and stings were composed for us by Ollie Newbury. Check the episode description to hear more of his excellent tunes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Indieventure. Bye for now.